let me start out by telling you what I've been doing for the last about 50 years or more, which is primarily my career has been involved with the home building business and design and construction of, I'd call it the lunatic leading edge in housing and neighborhood design. And Boulder's been a great place to do that because it supports a lot of innovation and creativity, I think, in real estate as well as in a lot of other areas. I started developing co-housing communities 20 years ago with the first one that came to Colorado, the Nyland. We did the Nyland community out in Lafayette, and got intrigued with it because a lot of the focus, my focus has been on both the design quality of the neighborhood, but also the sustainability. Back 20, 30 years ago, that was all about energy efficient and then green building, and now we talk about it broader in terms of not just environmental, but economic and social sustainability. And co-housing really embraces all that because you're getting a group of neighbors to really collaborate at a closer level with each other, both through the development of their project and then how they're going to live together. And we're starting to see some really good evidence coming out on a national level that the stuff actually works. It also has a whole raft of challenges to it, like you would normally expect with when you try to get human beings to collaborate with each other in any way. But it's been a very exciting ride. I hadn't planned on being quite where I'm at now at this point in my life and career, but I took on the Washington Village project, Washington School, for a couple of reasons. One was I've lived most of my life in North Boulder, and I couldn't imagine a better site to live in, especially for people that are maybe move down kind of buyers. You can walk to downtown, you're 8 blocks away from the Pearl Street Mall, and yet you're not right in the middle of a lot of the real intensity. Boulder isn't New York City, but when you get downtown, it sort of can be the worst of both worlds or the best. You get to the farmer's market in about 10 minutes from that site, and it's got really good shopping next to it and restaurants and things. But the other thing that I was interested in was the fact that I knew it was going to be a challenging site from a political standpoint, and I felt co-housing really had something to offer to the neighborhood and to the community that would help push it over the hump. I did not anticipate the kind of firestorm we really hit with it politically. The other thing I didn't anticipate was that we would have a major recession right in the middle of the process. So we had a lot of bad news through the process. It took us a lot longer to get it entitled, which it is now, and then another whole chunk of time to finally figure out how to finance it, because co-housing is not a typical development in that where you have a fairly high roller type developer that's bankrolling the whole thing and then putting up whatever his or her vision is and then building a product and selling it. Instead, it really involves working with the people that are going to live in it, and they actually take some of the financial risk of the project. So there's a lot of trust and fiduciary responsibility that's in it. The kind of the good news with Washington Village is we got delayed long enough through the political process to where we fortunately didn't start construction before October of 2008. We were originally slated to do that. So we didn't have anything under construction. We just had to carry some rather expensive land for the past 4 years or 3+ years. The other thing that's been kind of interesting is that the whole, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, but the psychology out there, especially relative to housing, but just the American psyche has kind of changed because of this recession. And there's a lot of people that are really questioning our whole value systems and whether or not living in great big houses is really the right dream, and a lot of other things like that affect what kind of decisions that people make around housing. We found that right now what's really driving this project and letting it go forward is we've had an incredible market interest in it. And I think that's been driven by, number one, the location, but number two, right along with that is the whole concept of a more intentional community where neighbors get to know each other more. Our buyers of all of our units tend to be in the 50 and up category. It's not that we're exclusive to that group, but that the market rate units are definitely that way because of the price point, and the people that have the money tend to be in that range. They have large equities in their houses. A lot of our market rate buyers are coming out of houses locally here and are in the region that are worth close to $1 million or slightly more than that. We've got 33 units, and 10 of those are permanently affordable. And this is another thing that we've learned with co-housing, and this is a real estate myth that is, I think, rapidly being dispelled, that you can't mix people of varying income levels. In fact, the most successful neighborhoods, I think, are ones that are integrated economically. And a good example is the Holiday neighborhood North Boulder, where I live, which has a high percentage of affordable housing, and yet the market rate units have done very well in there, and everybody is enjoying the diversity, both in age group and in economic diversity. We've, right from the start in Boulder, because of the uniqueness of Boulder's affordable housing program, we've always incorporated the affordable housing right in the co-housing community. So all 3 of them that we have completed in Boulder have close to 40% permanently affordable housing mixed in with some pretty high end, like where I live in Silver Sage, our affordable houses started about 100 to 150,000. Our market rates went from 400 to 800,000. The unfortunate thing, there's some problems with Boulder's affordable housing program that I don't want to get into now, but it's that gap in between that makes it difficult. But this project has 10 affordable units priced in 2 ranges, and generally from 100,000 to about 250, and then our market rate units start at about 575, and we're going up with single-family homes, $1.2 million or a little bit more. So that's the price range we're in. We're doing a first phase. This is kind of the project. This is the historic school. Broadway's out here in Cedar. The school, these 2 buildings, we call them carriage houses because they're over garages that serve 8 units in the school. And then all these single-family homes around this, what will be a public park, our first phase. What really sprung the financing loose was the fact that in addition to getting people in all of these units interested, the lenders decided that it was time to go with these single-family homes, even though our site cost point is close to right about $500,000 in site on these. So we're starting these at $1 million to $1.2 million price range, and then the condominiums in the school range, like I said, 575 up to about $1 million.
Where's the low-income housing, did you say?
In this first phase, there's 4 of the affordable units, 2 in the school, and the 2 carriage units.
Maybe Robin can help you hold it while you're pointing to it. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and we can put this back here. So I'd be happy to answer questions for you guys. That might be more fruitful than me pontificating on.
Who's underwriting? Who's your financer?
Well, that's a really interesting story, and I would never tell this
Where's the money?
to normal
Okay.
people, but you guys seem like exceptions. But my bank was a lender that banked the original purchase, along with a combination of some of our community members that were going to live there had put up some money, and then a private investor and private investors, including myself. And and so that financed the site, and the idea when we closed it in April of 2008 was that Mile High would do the construction financing, and we were ready to go, and then we hit this buzzsaw with the neighborhood and the petition and all that stuff. Meanwhile, the banking industry changed a lot, and the small community banks like Mile High were literally put out of business for construction loans, especially if they already had quite a few loans in real estate. So they weren't really able to do anything. We finally, in the last, starting about the first of this year, were able to glue together a combination of a development loan from Mile High of about $800,000 to do all the site work, the utilities, everything underground, the streets and utilities in here. And then we put that together with a commitment for private financing for construction for the single-family homes. And we're currently negotiating for a construction loan to do the school and the carriages, and that's going to be the toughest one because it's about a $3 million loan. We're talking to Wells Fargo about that, and any other banks that you guys know that might be interested. It's really a glued together deal, and it's extremely difficult to do financing, I think, right now. If you've got a lot of equity, the interest rates are low, and that's great, but if you got a lot of equity, you don't need to borrow a whole lot, so anybody who buys a unit in here in this first phase, they're buying it at about 20% lower price than our price structure was in 2007, because that was partially to reflect what's happened to especially the condo market in the core of Boulder, to bring it down. But in return, they're putting up 20% of the purchase price, and it goes directly into the project as equity dollars. It's tied to their unit, so when they close, they get it out on their unit. But if they don't close on their unit, it stays in there until we close the project out. So it's a unique kind of financing that we've used on several co-housing and on almost all the co-housing projects we've done. And what it does is it really binds together the developer, the project managers, and the buyers. Everybody has an interest in seeing the project getting done and getting done right, and the synergy you get out of that, because it's incredible, and especially in Boulder, the quality of people you get involved with a project like this, and they're buying into it, and some of the talents they have. It enables us, and we're a small development company. There's only 4 of us now to do projects like this.
So I know there were some contentious issues with the neighborhood, and what would you do differently? What did you learn about that
part of
process?
it?
Yeah, what would you do next time or differently?
Well, the thing that really blindsided me on it and us was that we thought we had it. There was a process that was put in place by the city to go through, and they thought that would air all of the issues, and then there was a request for proposal, and which we made, and there's a citizens group involving neighbors that selected, and we were selected through that process. So we thought that, okay, they may not everybody like our project, but we're pretty much, we've been aired. It wasn't like they hadn't seen what we're going to do. We didn't change anything. Well, we prepared it all and submitted it to the city, and one of the requirements was to have a neighborhood meeting. About 50 people showed up, and they were madder than hell. And they just, and it was.
What were they mad about?
Well, they were mostly mad. They were taking a lot of it out on us, but they were mostly mad at the school district for selling the school, and the city for not buying it, so that it could be. They considered it to be public property, their public park, and they wanted something nice to happen to the school. That'd be have the city buy it basically, and keep it as a nice green area for the neighborhood to use. The city did not want a park there at all. They said the neighborhood's well served with parks. The only reason there's one there now is it came out of the resolution process, because we went ahead and took the project through the approval process, and all these red shirts showed up, and we just got really reamed in the public hearings, but the planning board and the council voted for it, and then we got caught with a quirk because the city planners, there's a zoning line that goes right down this line here, and originally, this is multifamily, this is single family behind, and it's a weird zone because they call it high density residential, but it's actually done on floor area ratio, and the density is fairly low. On this whole site with 33 units is 3 acres. It's only about 10 units the acre. I mean, the Holiday neighborhood's got more density than that now. But that zoning line, the city planner said, why don't you move it over 40 feet because it makes the plan work better. So we did it in the submission. And it got approved that way. And that was the only thing that a petition drive could attack, was the fact that they moved the zoning line. And they got the petition drive going. And once that got going, well, then the city council woke up and they said, we got problems. You're in Dodge.
I didn't foresee that.
And they actually set up a process that lasted about 6 months that we went through with groups this size. There were some selected people from the neighborhood. There were other people on that, city council members and stuff, to come up with a compromise solution that everybody could live with. And that group in the end did. It was very well facilitated, but there were still a bunch of people who are mad. There's still some of them in that neighborhood that think that they got screwed in some way or another. But I really think what we've got is the best solution you could possibly come up with and still get what the school district needed, which was a pile of money out of this, because they wanted to use the money to.
When does construction begin?
Construction has begun.
Oh, it has.
We started the, if you can call the abatement work in the school, where they go in and take out the asbestos and things. They're doing that now, and then there'll be some demolition, and then we expect the site work to start sometime this summer, and the construction on the new buildings to start this summer too, in this first phase.
So what would you do differently? What's the key learning?
Sorry.
Sorry, I got this.
Well, I think one thing I would do would be to try to connect with that neighborhood group earlier on, because they were disenfranchised, or they felt like they were through the process, even though they weren't. The city tried to do it, and we took. And I think it was a weird combination of things that probably wouldn't happen again. What we usually do, and you often hit resistance with a neighborhood with any. We do a lot of infill development with co-housing, but we usually try to get the causing future residents involved, and they actually go out and door to door within the neighborhood if they need to, and talk to people. And when they're real people talking to each other, it makes a lot of difference. It's not like, oh my God, they're coming in here with attached housing, and we're going to have riffraff in the neighborhood, and who knows what. So there's ways, and we've been very successful here and in California with the political process, much more than a typical developer. There's a reason why they build all these tract houses on farms out in the edge of town.
Do your projected housing prices reflect the market?
Our prices?
Mm-hmm.
I think they reflect the high end of the downtown condo market, at least, and we're in about the $500 a square foot range. It depends on how you count the square footage.
But you're not downtown, though.
What are you finding downtown as a?
Well, I don't know.
For new
it
buildings.
just seems like your prices are kind of high.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Boulder is way out of sync with the rest of Colorado.
Your projected prices seem high to me.
High for the city of Boulder, or high for
No, for the
general?
location.
Okay.
But they're not high for the location. If you think about, like say a single family home at $1 million, seems high, and these are actually small homes. They're designed for move downs with the little courtyards and things, and primarily one-story houses. Really high quality.
No, I hope you get it. I do.
Well, we've got 2 of them sold
my house
already.
will go up. It just seems like they're, I don't know.
No,
it
but
just
think
seems
about in that neighborhood. I don't know that you could find a house on a lot that you could buy for under $500,000. And then when you found it, you'd probably be planning on tearing it down or spending several hundreds of thousands of dollars getting it just to the point where it begin to match the quality. So, and one of our buyers has reserved a unit. They spent the last 3 years looking all over that part of Boulder trying to do just that. Now they had a specific program. They wanted a 1-story house, and they couldn't find it.
It's
And,
a new home.
So if it's
Oh,
co-housing.
it's because it's new.
Yeah, it's new.
Okay.
If it's co-housing, does it really mean they're actually already all under contract? And if the community's there, and those units and those houses are already pre-sold or at least under contract of some sort?
are they?
If it's a co-community development, it implies that they're already involved in the development, or there's already buyers. Is it
Yeah,
already sold?
yeah. Our whole model is based on pre-sales.
How did you get that? How did you advertise?
A lot of it is, we're nationally known and have websites and stuff. So some of our buyers are actually coming from all around the country because they want to be in co-housing. And then, we've gotten a lot of notoriety one way or the other in the last 5 years. So, and so a lot of people in Boulder know about the project, and then they're not all, pissed off about it. A lot of them like it.
Early on, there's intention statements and what's the community about, and way before like the ground's broken, there's a big process.
Yeah.
Lots of meetings and.
Yeah, it's an intentional neighborhood and there's quite a bit of shared common space. There'll be a common house, about 3,000 square feet in this building on the first floor, and then there's quite a bit of space in the school, especially on the lower floor for crafts rooms and stuff. And the typical co-housing community not only self-manages, so the people meet at least once a month as a community, and then they have different committees and teams that manage different aspects of it. So they get connected that way, but they usually share meals anywhere from 1 to several times a week in one kind or another. Often they're glorified potlucks, but in the common house. And there's a lot of other things that happen in that common house. A lot of it, even other people use them, but neighbors, use them because they're really beautiful places. They're not, some
So the
run down
single-family home people can come and be with the groups?
Yep,
So
they're
people
all.
are, so
bring
that's
their
the marketing
problem.
strategies. People are seeking this. People are
Yeah,
wanting
instead of
the
assisted
interaction.
living or
They're
retirement home.
looking
Yeah.
for that.
Sometimes they come to us and they're not that familiar with it and they don't realize it. In fact, it's one of the things that, so it's a slow sale. It takes a while, but it's very sticky. Once they get it, you don't lose near as many of them. They're not right now. The scariest part for most of them is just the whole financial climate and what is going to happen to real estate, and are they going to prices going to go down, and and if you believe that in Boulder, I think.
When prices go down in Boulder, everywhere else is shot, so it really doesn't matter.
That's right.
You could do a commercial on that.
Yeah.
We're all screwed if this happens to Boulder.
Exactly. When Boulder hits bottom, everybody else is
Better
sliding
run.
out that
So-
And then you have hope in the corner.
Yeah.
We're more or less out of
We all
time.
hope.
Does anybody have the last minute pressing question that they haven't gotten an answer that they really want to know about?
Well,
Last
I have
question.
a question. How does a lot of communities have HOAs where everyone pays in and there's a management property manager or something that looks after it? Is this different in that the community's looking after itself? Is there still like a monthly fee or quarterly fee? How do you manage that sort of community, landscaping and building, upkeep and all that sort of thing?
It's structured just exactly like every other HOA. If you can imagine a condominium project, they're small projects. Like this is 33 units, seldom more than about 35 units, and they're completely self-managed, which means the residents drive a lot of it, which really brings out a lot of both quality and you get some people are avid gardeners in the groups. You end up some of those beautiful grounds. They don't necessarily do all the work themselves, especially in this one. We're expecting, in fact, we've even budgeted in for some professional management, certainly professional bookkeeping, and then groundskeeping, snow removal, and that stuff. But the residents do what they want to do, but they get connected with each other, so they kind of, they get into doing it together. it definitely is different than a typical HOA where you got a management company doing it and everybody, all they do is bitch about one thing or another, architectural control or the dog pooped on their sidewalk or whatever it is. This is a lot more asking neighbors to take responsibility for the neighborhood, not, you know, the HOA though functions exactly the same, the financing and everything is the same, you know, so there's nothing unique.
Well, thank you for coming and giving us a talk and educating us on Washington Village, Jim. Thank you.
Well, thank you.